this. Username as well as the gift name. Okay. Directing, interviewing. Gosh. Oh, what am I doing? Why have I been swiping? Hi. Oh, welcome to my first live. I really don't know what I'm doing on TikTok live itself. Hi, Ashy. Oh gosh. Okay. Here we go. I guess first of all, thank you to those that have just joined my TikTok. Started following me. It's been a huge week. You never quite know when one of your TikTok videos is just going to go through the roof. And this one this week happened to. So bear with me. Having done Facebook Live for a couple of years now, the one thing I've learned is I'm not very good when there's a whole lot of names start springing up on the screen. So thank you for those that have joined. My name is Tabetha Dowson, and oh, what are we doing? Oh, I don't know if I'm going to see more comments. Here we go. It's telling me to do something. Swipe left to close. Okay. Oh, no, I can't get rid of that. Come on. I'm swiping left. There we go. All right. So I'm a psychic life coach, and I'll try not to touch the table, which means I won't move the camera. And so I am an intuitive and have been giving people insight now for about 16 years, full on. And what I do is quite different. And I'm going to say "and" a lot because I am nervous, because this is, YouTube's different, Facebook is different, Instagram is different when you go live. So I'm really just trying to get a gauge of what's on the screen. So anyway, back to what I do. Some of you might have seen the video that I've just posted and commented on about the behaviour that I saw on a particular show in the States. And because I tend to see underneath people's behaviour of what's being presented, I think that that's what resonated with a lot of people that had been watching this particular person on TV for a long time and had picked up the same things. And that's the thing with an empath is that most of our psychic abilities are born out of trauma, and until we start changing the coding that we've got in our systems, our limiting beliefs, okay, a second, you will keep attracting the same experiences. So that's what I specialize in, helping people to be able to understand that there is coding in our system. And ironically enough, the video that I posted, the person that had 9 or 10 personalities on the Dr. Phil show, interestingly enough, referred to her mind, body and soul as a system as well. It took me a bit to realise that that's what she was doing. So here we are, sitting on TikTok, getting to know how it works and getting to know some of the people that are going to stick around. So what have we got? We've got Nala. Hi Nala. We've got Hurricane. Hi. So for those of you who are wondering where in the world that I am, I'm down here in the bottom of the world, in the South Island of Aotearoa, here in New Zealand. And I can tell you that there have been people pop up all over the planet with this live. I mean, with the video that I did. So sometimes, mostly what I do on my Facebook lives, what I've been doing is connecting to the audience members and tuning into their lives and giving them some very clear guidance as to how they can move forward in their life, mostly coming back to the coding. So sometimes I will use the cards, sometimes I won't. What I'd really love to happen, and I'm not sure where this TikTok's going to go, is to have people ask some questions. Hi Emma, once they figure out what I'm doing. Okay. So, oh, now, squeak. You might have heard a squeak there in my lungs. So, my lungs are scarred. My breathing is reduced because of the event that I had 5 years ago in Australia. And I will run short of breath at different times. That's okay. So, I had a near-death experience in hospital. I flatlined twice, was induced into a coma. And I hadn't been doing an awful lot of spiritual work at that particular time. I was on a new journey with a new partner. And when I woke up, I remember not waking up because I woke up in ICU, but waking up on the ward. I could definitely feel spirit pushing me from behind, wanting me to get back to work. And then having all the doctors come down from ICU when they had a moment and standing there looking at me, and I could hear them in their heads saying, how on earth did she actually survive that, you know. They told my family and my new fiance of a couple of weeks that there's no way that I'd live. And they prepared them twice for me to just disappear off the planet. But here we are, I'm still here and I'm still working. Okay, so I'm Weird 4. I like that. That's pretty cool. That's a cool name. Okay. So you'll notice that when you're watching me, depending on how many of you are actually intuitive psychics and empaths yourself, you might see my aura change when I'm in the zone. Some of you might pick up the change in tone of my voice when I start channeling. What else? So generally, I'm just very different, quite quirky, and cherry bomb free. Hey, Kylie. So, alrighty. There we go. Okay, so we've got people now that are starting to realise what I'm doing. All right, it's going to get busy in here. So let me just work out what I'm going to do. It's been, let me ramble. So this is what happens with me. I'll start rambling and then you'll see that shift and I'll start channeling. So the hardest thing that I've learned on Facebook Lives is that I used to start waiting for the person to respond that I was hitting the nail on the head. Having done that now for a couple of years and realising that I am hitting the nail on the head, you guys in the audience can read when the person's saying yes, 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 but I would rather stay in the zone and keep delivering the message because I have enough faith in my process now on my lives. Okay. Can I say hi, Zoe, please? Hi, Zoe. I'm not going to be smart and say hi, Zoe, please. It's all good. Okay. And a Batman. You've always got to have a Batman in your life. Okay. What have we got up here? Okay. All right. So, the little thing that I did just then, and I'll call it a nudge, is I got a nudge to read what that comment was above what you guys had all written. And talked about the worst and best experience. Gosh, we'll be here for hours. Okay, so let's start here. Let's start with Christopher. Now, because this is all new and I am a little bit overwhelmed and I am a little bit nervous with the new process, you can hear that in my voice. What I do is I tend to just play with my cards because I do want to focus myself. Now, most of you won't be new to the sound of anybody flashing their cards, but I would love to show you these because these are actually created by two artists, probably 20 years ago now. Really quite beautiful, lovely and round. So there's my Empress card. So what you'll start learning about me is that I read everything in my room. So I'm actually sitting in my craft room at the moment, my art room. Okay. So there we go, squeak, squeak, squeak. Ears are starting to buzz in. So Christopher, let me pick up off the top. So I don't have a set method of reading cards. I developed an ability to, when talking to spirit, I didn't want to be swimming in spirit all the time, so I just go and knock on the door. And that seems to have rolled on to me doing my lives of connecting to the person's name and just having things float in. So again, bear with the ramble because that's how I lead in. So thank you. Yes, I don't know why, but green seems to be the colour they make bigger clothing for women over here at the moment. Tauranga, hello, thank you. Okay. Boy. Okay. So let's give this a go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is reshuffle because those are the cards I put up on the screen. Let's see what else comes out. You'll hear my voice go up and down. Some of you will hear a different accent in there sometimes. It's all good. Okay. Do I want two cameras when I do these lives? Absolutely. Okay, so Christopher, back to you. So I don't know if you can see those. I've pulled out two cards. That's my gong card, that's new arrival, and that is the pressure card, the head and advice. It doesn't get more symbolic than that, or literal, to be fair. Christopher, as soon as I put those cards on the table, Aussie and Kiwi accent, yeah, a little bit of British in there from a long time ago as well. The word I got for you, Christopher, is judgment. What I'm hearing in my head, particularly the right side of my head, is words to the effect of it doesn't take you much time to get things done. Then I'm hearing, but there's a but you tend to pull yourself down as quickly as you've built these things up. And I'm hearing the word self-sabotage, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that's what it is. I'm hearing that it might look like self-sabotage and it might seem like that, but it's actually more deliberate than that. You're quite proactive at knocking yourself down. So why would that come through as the first piece of insight that I deliver on this platform? Because it takes me straight back to the fact that my work revolves around the whakapapa of things, the origin of our patterns in our lives, our limiting belief system, you know. Thank you for the confirmation. You know, my job is, I'm not a fortune teller. You know, my clairvoyance will come in depending on the client I'm talking to at the time, if that's what's needed. But my priority, my main function, is to help people identify and then deconstruct those patterns. And I'll put this around my neck, that are suffocating you and holding you stuck in your own life. All right. So that's what I mean by I have a very different way of reading. I'm not here to reassure. I'm more here to give the insurance to help you be able to work with yourself in a way that you can actually move forward a whole lot quicker. Okay. So Christopher, I'm still with you. I'm really looking at that light language coming through. I've learned to channel it out. The head in the vice, it's the card, it's wiping the eye. So part of you sees all the good stuff. So this is a different way of saying what I've said before, but let me ramble because that's what I do. Now the hand, so this is a flat piece of cardboard, yeah? So what I'm seeing is that hand gently move away. So you're looking at something with one eye, and I could say that you're one-eyed about it, but actually you're starting to take that hand away from the other. It's not that you don't want to see other parts of yourself, but I'm getting that there has been a definite, my throat, I get really sore in here now. There's pain in there. You really haven't had the support to want to go in there and find those deeper parts of you that need healing because you haven't had the tools, right? So I'm going to leave that there because I have been moved. It's a little bit like working in the the spiritual churches back in the day. You tend to go pop, pop, pop. And back in the day, the lights of people's energy, there's a gold light that used to spring up, so I just go and move to that person. Okay, good. I love having some questions. Maydog has asked, how long have you worked with that little grey? Well, I'm not sure if I have connected to the little grey myself. I don't tend to focus on too much of working of who and what's around me. I tend to channel collectively. So if I was in your shoes, I would probably ask that question myself if you were watching me. Because, if you're the one that's really good at asking questions, you're probably going to find out more insight for yourself anyway. I have all sorts of things come and go at different points, and it's a bit like spirit. I don't want to get hung up on those experiences because I'm here now and I want to help humans on the earth plane now. Okay. They might have done. They might have done when I was in the coma. I've just had an amazing experience with a new acquaintance in my life that's come through several different points down here. I've done, and I explained what I thought was a dream, but actually she said that was part of you being suicidal back in the day, and your near-death experience and wanting to leave, and you're being stopped from leaving the planet, completely, wholly. Yeah. So Christopher, hello. I tend to be judgmental. Oh, back to Christopher, okay. But I know I can accomplish things if I have a more positive self-caring. And that's the thing, I'm really, really, really careful with the word positive, because we've been conditioned and programmed to believe that we must always be positive. And the problem is that when we go towards positive affirmations, then we tend to beat ourselves up if we have what we think is a negative comment. So, Christopher, you really want to bring yourself back to centre, to become the observer, so that you can start observing and understanding what has got you to this point where you do pull yourself down. Yeah. And self-love, the video I'm about to do on my Patreon site this week, which hopefully I'll get done today, is about self-love and the power of that and the specifics of what loving yourself actually opens up and what it does and what it protects you from. There's a lot of people in the spiritual space that will talk about being protected. Well, and getting on the right frequency, yeah? You don't want to end up with it like using a drug, all right, or having an alcohol binge where you go up and then you come down. So you're constantly worrying if you're on the right frequency. When you release the coding in your system that's holding you back, you remain at that particular level, right? Yeah. There's a whole nother conversation on there, but I'm getting told just to hang fire. Okay. Right. So I'm just going to take a breath. So different language, I'll be using different language. It doesn't suit everybody, and that's okay. Cool. All right. Okay, so coming back to what I just said in general, I'm talking about substance use and the same as trying to raise your frequency and it coming down. You need to find ways of keeping that steady so that you know you're protected all the time. It's the same with generating that physical security around yourself. You can't go backwards once the right work's been done. That reality just disappears, right? Yeah. So, Christopher, one of the questions I would ask myself in order to start that process of deconstructing some of those limiting beliefs are, you know, when did I start learning that beating myself up was normal or a good thing? Who taught me that being overly self-critical was possibly positive? That's where I take it. Aotearoa 203, kia ora. Haere mai, welcome. Okay, so this is interesting. So I'm now moving my cards around. So the feeling that I get is a Ouija board. Now, I've never in my life used a Ouija board. Only ever seen them in the movies. So that's an interesting energy. Okay, legend. Now we've got returns. I don't know if that's an NZ on the end or just a Z. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so Maydog, let's see if I can. What am I going to do with you? What am I going to do with you? Let's get back to the cards. I don't know why, but I do just like my round cards. So this is the second set of these that I've got. That's another long story. The first set has ended up in Japan. I was teaching English in China for a while. Ended up with a student, so she took me back to Japan. And the first lot, I won. Okay. All right. Never won anything in my life. I was starting to have my breakdown back in the day. Knock on the door. You've won a set of tarot cards. If that wasn't a nudge, I don't know what was, really. Okay. All right. So Maydog, here we go. Right, completely different set of cards, which is cool. Sometimes, though, what will happen on my lives is there will be a common thread. It's no different to doing a live psychic show or mediumship show. There are common threads that run throughout because people are bringing in similar stuff. Okay. I've noted your question. Mary, I just want to see what's going on in here first. Okay. Oh, okay, so what you'll learn with me on my lives is that my body language is very alive. And so, being the big observer that I am, I've noted the clasping of this particular hand. The tightness in there. So in the background I'm asking if the person that you're worrying about that's passed is okay, till I get a clear answer if this is connected to them. Okay, now what I'm getting at is my kite card. Now the kites that I'm looking at, I'm not going to release this just yet, are faces. They've got eyes in them. that particular card is one of what I call my depression cards. There's 3 people sitting on a little bumpy, there we go, 3 people, sitting on the bumpy little cliff top there. Are they 3 personas of the same person, or are they 3 friends? Are they grieving? Those are the types of questions that you ask if you're learning how to read cards. That's a really good way to do it. So now I'm being nudged, as I call it, to go to my other card. Now, the other card that I've just been nudged to look at is my Tower card. This is a really different looking card, so I will show you that card. Okay. So this can go anyway. So I don't have a particular function of that card. I don't memorize what each card is, because for me it's all about the movement. So if I'm looking at this particular Tower card, the first question that naturally occurs in my brain is it about the person falling out of the tower, or are they falling into the light? Is the monster a part of some trauma in that person's life, or is that somebody in that person's life that's causing a problem and not listening to my client that's sitting there? Constantly looking for that movement, because that's what tells the story. I've seen so many people over the years that get so uptight when they want to develop their psychic ability, and they freak out because they can't remember things. You've got to be in real time, right? Nature fellow. I was hoping you'd got the message this morning. Yes, so TikTok have invited me to jump on a live this morning, which was great, because I was still another 430 odd people away from being on. But having gone and watched the Elvis movie last night, I knew that something was going to open up today. I was just sitting there going, okay, there's the message for me. Am I ready? Am I ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Yep, definitely ready. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so back to Merry Dog. We are... okay, so what's happening for you is the slide. I'm feeling the edge of the lighthouse in that Tower card. Okay, so there is a ridge. I mean, when you build things, you have layers, right? You've got floors. And I feel that that particular top floor is not strong enough to hold you. So what I'm hearing now, in the way that I see things and the way that I do read people, is the base of the tower and the structure is great, right? So the work that you've done on the basics is great. But as you're trying to transcend, you're missing a piece of information, and that's why that top floor is not holding you. So I was just talking about patterns and things like that. So connecting to that as I am with you now, that connection is talking about the highs and the lows, trying to reach a certain level and then coming crashing back down because you haven't got the sustainability on that particular level. Okay, so the questions, if I was in your shoes, would be things like, what tools am I missing? What am I not understanding? When did I get taught metaphors like so close yet so far? You know, because metaphors are important. It's like storytelling. You know, where did the fairy tales come from? So I'm getting, as I deliver that to you in real time, is that you're more comfortable in that other space. All right, so that's okay that that's your home, living in that particular part of your energy. Okay, it's okay that you come in and out of that, but I would stay where you're comfortable right now and go, well, how do I say that, go wide. So keep exploring that to create more stability on the level that you're at instead of trying to race ahead. All right. What else am I getting in there? Gosh, it's all about judging today. I keep checking to see whether whether or not I want to go to the person for you in the spirit, but it's not. It's coming back to you. Okay, so you all would have seen me huff and puff in there. You're underestimating what you have, and you're trying to overcompensate. So you're trying to run before you can walk. You've got to start being a little bit more honest about what you have going on for yourself, and not rely on somebody else to give you that permission to follow the nudges that you get. The faster, if you want to do things fast, you want to activate things fast, that's the energy that's coming through, then action the nudges that you're already getting instead of trying to elevate and transcend everything. Act upon the nudges you're receiving. Okay? Oh, wow. Okay, thank you. Roses and piggy banks and all sorts of things. Not used to these little icons on Facebook. So the key thing, Mary Dog, that I get out of this is that you are your own worst enemy because nobody's taught you to be with yourself properly. And that's probably part of the reason that you are picking up on things around me. But we've got to get you back to centre for a while. We've got to get you back to understand and know who you are so that you don't get distracted. Yeah. Cool. All right. Okay. So, yeah, sometimes I get a bit puffed at the end of a small session because I'm so in there. Right, Mary Dog, I'm going to leave that with you, and we will go from there. Okay. Gosh, you know what I didn't bring in here, and it was a glass of water. Look, Mary says, sorry you had so much to filter then. It's that's part of the training, you know. That's not that I'm into child slavery, picking out diamonds of the earth. You don't get good at what you do in this space by having everything easy, right? I remember years ago I'm back on the Coromandel, and I would walk into the wind, and I'd be asking myself, what do I do with this, with the power of the ability that I had? And I just even asking that question, I'd walk into the wind, that resistance. You want to get really good at doing anything, including life. Deal with the resistance. Get comfortable with the resistance. Because the more resistance that you're facing at the time, the quicker you're going to ask yourself the questions that are going to pop up the answers that you need and create the shifts in your life that are going to be absolutely amazing. Okay. Right. Now, let's see. Right. Rural chef. Excellent. Okay. Now, Nature Fellow's still on, so I'm going to pull a couple of cards for Nature Fellow. Excellent. Okay, so straight away, Nature. Did you see me gasp? Okay, relax. Gentle, gentle. Okay, so my left hand is shaking. Okay. My hand is still on the bottom of my throat or the top of my collarbone, actually. So, 3 cards, Nature Fellow. Justice, windmill, male sitting in the windmill writing a note, wave songs card, party boat. But getting back to the shaking of the hands. And yes, I did. I'm not even sure where that goes now, but that's okay. If you are starting to ask whether this is the beginning, then the answer is yes. Okay. Oh, yes, I did. Yeah, okay. So let me, where's my pointy stick? My darning needle. I can see that unhooking itself. All right. So this is a bit gloomy. This is the downside of living in a city. Okay. The answer is yes too, if you're wondering about it at the beginning. Okay. Okay, good. Right, so back to the card. So if this comes off that rod, then this is going to end up in the water. Okay. Now, water to me represents emotions. So with this new beginning nature value, you might find that you end up, and here we go back to this area of the body, right? You might find yourself with this new beginning struggling a little bit because your emotions are going to get opened back up for a little while. Okay, so the message for you right now, is my right arm is tingling, is practice any strategy that you have or that I've given you to remain calm, so that when you get triggered at some point for whatever that is, automatic pilot is going to be in control and you're just going to be okay, right? Because you, the observer, are starting to open up as well. So I see this row of people, right? So the door that you're about to open is talking to more people. Now when we do that, we get mirrors. And the problem is that we get a whole lot of mirrors at once, okay? So it's about preparing for what you're about to see about yourself. And here we go back to loving yourself. Loving yourself enough that when those mirrors get shown to you, you don't automatic pilot go to judging. You go to hang on, wait a minute. What is the gift in here for me so that I can put that energy back out? Okay, so the vulnerability, yep, but understanding that strength and that vulnerability so that we can then put back out to the world what needs to be put back out to be received, right? It's the phase where we go from worrying about our own insecurities to getting the work done, right? So the work is now about to envelop you and your audience, and I wouldn't be surprised if your audience started to hear a change in your voice going forward. Wow. Did anybody see that fly in my left ear? Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. So you're allowed to be a little bit relieved, and you should be excited about that relief. And that was the message that came in last night, so that's for you. It's all taken care of. Okay, now if that particular statement resonated with you, then that's the affirmation you want to work with, but not force it. So if you have a moment and you work with something and you get a little bit of a nudge or you hear the words, everything is taken care of, then say that to yourself. See if you register with that and resonate with that 100%, and then I would use that again. That's the trick with positive affirmations or mantras. You've got to measure it. You've got to test it. Okay. What have we got? Mara's going over. Retesting, and yes, I saw it began this week. Okay. So finding other ways to express yourself is also key. So if there's been something that you've been working on or wanting to develop creatively, whether that's writing, whether that's artistically, musically, Okay, I need to explain it to my viewers. When I start burping, that's me as the healer, facilitating healing as well. Wish there was a nicer way to do it, but that's how it is. You want to ease into other ways of expressing yourself. Okay, again, it comes back to those triggers, so that when you are triggered in a public space, that you have practiced, you've prepped, right? So that then you will give out your channeling. Yeah, it's just one foot in front of the other, right? And moving into that space where you're not doubting where you've put yourself, being responsible for the situations you've found yourself. Yeah, that's cool. Right, I think that's the end of that. So the best thing, Nature Fellow, for you in there is the celebration card. Yeah. So, you know, peaks and troughs, when you've got some quiet moments and you really want to move your life ahead, you've got to take those quiet moments to say, okay, what are the most likely triggers that are going to come out and other people trigger them? What can I do in this moment so that if that trigger does get knocked on, you know, what are some responses that I can practice? What is it I need to clear so that it's not such a bigger trigger? Yeah. Most people get to this point, and it's the same with going and seeing a therapist or a counsellor, and they stop and they give up and they disappear. It tends to get a bit overwhelming. It tends to get awkward and ugly right before you have those epiphanies, before you have that shift. And being able to have like-minded people that you can talk to that have been through it, that have hung in there, is helpful. You know, I think too many people try to do all of this stuff on their own until they've practiced enough to be doing enough work on their own. You know, that's a big step. So I'll leave that there. I feel like I've rambled enough. But thank you, Nature Fellow, because that'll give other people an opportunity to see the flow and how I work. Thank you. Wasn't expecting this morning, that's for sure. I didn't know, I knew something, I just didn't know what. I was just enjoying the fact that I'd gone to see the movie. Being to the Elvis movie was like going to another funeral, which I'd been to 2 weeks prior, which was part of my music family, so it was intriguing to see the parallels. Yep. Nature Fellow says I'm a natural. Right, let's have that conversation. It's taken a lot of work to get here, a lot of practice, resistance training, as I touched on before, and being on stage, playing the piano and the saxophone as a young kid, and doing shows and sports and things like that. So the natural side of it is because being on stage is normal. Being in front of people is normal. Did I always talk this well? No. Did reading for me in the beginning seem so fluid? Hell no. 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 The biggest thing that I did was set the intention that I wanted to become more like Esther Hicks, and I wanted to get myself out of the way, and I wanted to channel. And that's what it's doing. So, natural. It's becoming more natural, but I've done the work. I've done the mahi. You know. And I will jump on that anytime somebody says that, to explain that, because there are so many of you out there that want to develop your own intuition and your own psychic abilities. And it is so important to know that it is about practice. It's about being able to practice and looking at yourself when you're working with a client, and these days being on lives, and trusting yourself. The biggest thing that you've got to do as an intuitive that delivers is to trust yourself. And you've got to make mistakes. If you can't move into the idea from mistakes are bad to the sooner I make the mistakes, life's going to get easier. And I'm going to trust myself more, then you really are pushing uphill at that point until that shifts. gosh, it's nice. It's been nice. It's been nice to have some more questions on here lately. I've been trying to foster that on my Facebook, but the tone on my Facebook had been set for a long time. And only now, dealing with my Patreon site and talking about that on my Facebook site, am I starting to regenerate the tone on there and recalibrate. All right, Mary Dog. Thank you. Don't know where in the world you are. I was going to say have a good day, but I don't know if you're day or night. So, excellent. Note to self, bring in a glass of water for next time. Okay, so Nature Fellow says we're at such a remarkable time. The vibe is so different. Yes, and I will add to that. It's so different if you're ready for new. If you are ready for yourself to live out your potential, to fulfill your potential. If you are somebody that is avoiding, resisting, terrified, don't have the right people around you, choose to bury your head in the sand, don't believe at this point that healing can happen, then the frequency at the moment is going to amplify all of that. Those of us that are fulfilling our potential, coming out of the closet, whether that's sexuality, whether that's psychically, artistically, letting the planet know who you really are, your dreams and aspirations for the planet, the frequency is helping where you're at the moment. Nature Fellow, you made a decision a while ago that you wanted more ease and it to be okay in your life, and you were funny you say supportive, you were seeking the support. You instigated that intention of support, right? So we start finding each other, we start finding our tribes, and we keep moving each other up. And so our energy amplifies the frequency, and it helps us because we're the generators. You've got to understand, we're generating our lives all the time. It's not about manifesting and having things fall from the sky. We're offering the frequency. We're generating. We're creating. When you're in this space that we are, you tend to find the help that you need. The resources arrive. But it's because you're paying more attention and listening with that ear underneath, as I call it. When you have a conversation with anybody during your day, you're listening for what is for you. You're starting to multitask between what the person is saying physically, verbally, but then you're hearing different words in another language underneath, and that's for you. Like years ago I used to talk about, till just recently actually, talking about, when you're looking at a billboard and there'd be one word on that billboard that, smacks you over the head and you go, whoa, that's a signpost. There's either a direction in there or you've got to go and do some work in that particular area. Now I will see a whole different sentence written up there as opposed to what's written up there. That's been the shift. Rent 23700. Good morning. Lower Hut. Yes, now I have seen your name pop up on some of my videos, so that's cool. Okay, so Nature Fellow says we're in the driver's seat. Yes, and that's because we've set the intention that we want it to be. And we're doing what we need to be, and that's facing what I call the ugly and the awkward, and the ugly not being our physical self. It's the stuff that we don't want to look at because we're scared we're going to judge ourselves. Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's pull a couple of cards out for rent. Was it Ren 1, 2, 3? Ren, sorry. Ren. Got that, Ren. I can't remember whether I'd done a video reading for Ren a couple of months ago. I think doing the markets, doing the Riccarton market. Yep. Yep, cool. Okay. Okay, what have we got before I tune into Ren? Thank you again, Tabetha, for your systems. Always well done on your debut. Thank you. It's been awesome having you on, Nature Fellow, and facilitating as always. Cool, thank you. Okay. Now, focusing on Ren. Okay, interesting. So touch my nose, eyes are welling up, moved my glasses already. Quite tight in my airways. So feeling pressured. I feel for you, Ren. Feeling, see, I haven't even picked the cards. That's because I've done all that channeling just now. Oh. Okay, so I've got the Fleetwood Mac song in my head, Go Your Own Way. So you're on the verge of making a decision and you're not finding it that easy is what I'm sensing. I'm now looking at my box of tissues. Okay, there's options on there. I feel like you've seen a clear path, but because you are empathic, you are feeling awkward about how awkward that's going to make other people feel. Because I sense that somebody has managed to break you before, or in another way to say that, change the direction you were going to go. That hesitation, oh, okay, body language, holding the cards, separating the cards. We've talked a lot today about self-trust, and what I'm getting in this moment is that, you know, self-trust is also linked very heavily to self-worth. So the message I'm getting for you, Ren, and it feels like a collective message coming through from Spirit, is you're going to make it no matter what happens. It doesn't matter how ugly it gets. You're actually going to get the job done, whatever that is, right? You've got to have more faith in yourself, but you've also got to have more faith in your own ability. So you haven't really exercised the ability that you have. Okay? The faith comes when you start accessing your true worth. People are always going to judge. People are always going to want you to do something else. You know, before I was talking about resistance. This is your resistance training, your resilience training, is to keep going anyway, because only then will you see that other people's opinions don't have the power over you that you've been conditioned to believe that they do, right? And that's why people talk about knowing who you are. I tend to use the statement, you've got to know what you've got. You've got to know what you have. You've got to know what you possess. That's part of the whole. And I go back to what I was saying before about making mistakes. Don't judge yourself harshly for making mistakes. If you were learning from those mistakes, then those mistakes are priceless. They're invaluable. And nobody can take that away from you. And there's information and there's feedback and layers of information and feedback in making those mistakes. right? If you keep making the same mistake over and over again because you're not learning and you're not observing and you're not asking yourself and you're not communicating with yourself, meaning there's no compassionate inquiry, then that's a fail. But even that shouldn't be judged. That's just showing you that you're not ready. So I would be asking myself in your shoes, what is it I'm not ready for? What is it that I didn't realize I'm actually trying to run away from, you know? It's practice. You get better at using your gifts and abilities and your know-how and your insight by acting upon it. And I'm not saying that you need to go around telling everybody what you've picked up on. You need to choose the people that you do that with very wisely so that they have a record. Yeah. I got the family bit when I went the separation with the cards. That was the family, because there's a lot of them, right? Here's the thing. When you're different like this, and you are, sometimes if you're the scapegoated child or you're the black sheep, funny how it always goes back to an animal, or you're the one that's different and you're seen, you know, the family call you weird or you're different, you're kooky, spooky, quirky. It's because people want what you have. And so you've got to, part of our process as observers and looking after ourselves and learning to love and like ourselves is to find out what's genuine and what's not. You know, are people, are they jealous of me very quietly underneath, but is it manifesting as they're trying to sabotage me? Or do they genuinely, like language coming through, have my interests at heart and are genuinely scared for me because they don't know how to protect? I'm looking at the word self-protection on my sheet for that video I've got to make today for my Patreon site. Are they genuinely scared of not knowing how to help you if you fall? And I'm not saying go out there and try and reassure everybody. You looking after yourself will reassure those that care about you the most, right? We're not here to take care of everybody, including our family. The best way that we can nurture our family and look after them is to look after ourselves, because the energy that you start vibing on, the frequency that you start sitting on, will help those in and around your family that are ready for it, you know. Yeah. It's funny, as you thank me so much, what I'm hearing back is a practice that you might want to start is actually thanking yourself. You know, when you start following those nudges that you get. I'm going to stop playing with the cards so I stop knocking the table. Is that you... Oh, it's the burping again. That's me healing. You'll all get used to that. Congratulate yourself when you do something right. Okay. Don't know who's coming through me there. It sounds like a nana energy, grandmother energy. And it's okay, you know, when you have those moments when you break down on your own and you have a big cry. That's when you really get honest with yourself, because you're the only one that can pull yourself back up, right? Yeah. We are, at the end of the day, all we have. So we have to congratulate ourselves. We have to pat ourselves on the back. We are the ones that pull ourselves up. So being grateful to you for the fact that you have pulled yourself up is also important practice that needs to be done regularly. Otherwise, you just end up living for everybody else. And we get sick. You know, the more we hold on to, the sicker we get. Oh, wow. Yes, my nan just passed in August last year. Definitely have nighttime breakdowns. Oh, my gosh. So you never know where this is going to take you when you do a live, because you're just being as such a clear channel as you can be. you're in somebody's life. There's a responsibility that comes with doing this work, which is why I do get a bit angry when I see people on TikTok taking advantage and actually haven't done the work, don't have the understanding, and just exploiting the platform. Wow. Okay. So Ren, ask your nan, to communicate with you and to make it clear. And sometimes that might even be at night time, just feeling her presence. Don't beat yourself up to start with to think you've got to hear major statements or comments. Just appreciate that closeness, right? Now what I'm getting with your nan is I felt behind my spine this push straight up and down my spine. Now that's developed in the last 2 years, as I know that means you are supported, right? That's my clear marker for you are supported. So when you go into those nighttime phases and you're feeling vulnerable and sometimes a little unsafe, is just remember the good times with your nan. Go back to a feeling of being safe, so that you start cultivating that energy at any point, especially when you get triggered, that you can climb back into. Okay, you have the ability and you have the power to do that. And that's when a lot of us in our space talk about the power of choice. Have the cry, have the release, and then ask yourself the question, am I ready to go back into my safe space now? And then you might find that you go, well, am I allowed? So then you have to give yourself permission to get back to that safe space, right? Yeah. Okay. So what I'm feeling now is your nan actually passing, from behind my spine into my chest and coming out this side, all right, and coming through the chest area. So there's obviously something that you need to share with other people, right? I hear the word she's saying, but I could tell when she said that actually it wasn't going to be so clear cut. So that tells me, sitting here as the filter, that whatever you've got to say to whoever in your family is not going to be clear cut either. But again, we learn through our mistakes. You probably won't get it out the way that you want it to, but that doesn't matter, right? That's the practice. And as long as your intention's okay, it'll come out the best way that you can at the time. Yeah. The other thing that you've got to do is deal with thinking about things too much. So again, it's action. Yeah. Okay. Well, so self-soothing in my left shoulder. Oh dear, so heavy. Complex too, because my mum's dying of lung cancer, and that'll be why my voice is cracking in here. And I'm so sorry to hear that. That must be super, super, super hard. Okay, but that explains to me why the words are difficult, right? Because I get that communication with your mum hasn't necessarily been easy over the years either. Yeah. Got that confirmation of exactly what I just said. And that's why it's so important, Jesse James, that's a good name, as to why you just start practicing getting something out, right? So that you're making peace with this, so that you can do everything in the time while she's still here, understanding the separation. You might find that writing something down helps, whether or not that happens and eventuates in you giving it to her or not. It's still a great process. And you can send her love, connect to that wonderful essence of yours and send her love, so that you feel like you're doing something at least, Yeah. Wow. full on. I agree, the word is complex. But most of our lives are complex until we learn to work with ourselves and communicate with ourselves on a whole different level and take the time to do that, you know. And that tiredness that you feel, you've got to be able to lay down at some point and actually just let go and unplug, right? Yeah. All right, Ren, thank you. Thank you for being on here today and supporting the first live. It's been incredible. Oh, that's good. Okay. I'm just going to take a moment. I'm just going to pick up my cards for a sec. I don't really have a process with spirit so much as the fact that I just attach when I'm reading one person to the next. Yeah. Okay. So, going to get some rest. And I'll say it again, you just never know what's going to come up when you do this work. Yeah. Okay. So, coming back to the question that TikTok posed a while ago. Something about the best or the worst experiences that you've had. Well, that's the thing, when you do this particular work, you've got that all the time because you're feeling other people's experiences. You know, and that's the reason it's so important. Like some of you have just watched me work with Ren, Violet Rose, hi, and you would have seen me, you know, go through her stuff and feel it and process it. So, you know, the balancing act there is being able to be in there wholly, 100% completely, and at the same time you still want to be detached enough that you're not collecting it, so that when you do finish working with the person, you know, you can let go, that you haven't taken it on board. Yeah. That's funny, Ren's just shared my live. It's funny, I'm used to doing this, but at the same time, you're just like, whoa, where's that going to go? It's the controller in me that's born out of trauma. That's all that is. And so what I did just then was an example of me observing myself. Yeah. Yes, thank you, and I appreciate that. It's like I said, it's me trying to control everything, because that's part of what you do when you're working with so many people. But this is the practice of social media, of being comfortable with that. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, shuffling the cards for me is actually just soothing. Then I can detach and go from there. Okay. Right, let's see if we can get something for, I think I'm going to say Armika or Amika. Let's see what we've got here. Right. Okay. Okay, very, very, very different set of cards this time. And interesting, I went back to the cards, so it feels like I've come back to the beginning. Feel like full circle as I'm touching the cards. My hands are spread out like this. My fingers are spread out, touching the cards with both hands. Wow. Okay. So, when I get this oscillating energy, the first thing I do to ground myself, because that could be you that I'm picking up on, is I go and I describe the cards. Okay, so I'm looking at the Hermit card. I am looking at my, what I call my psychic guru card, and then I'm looking at my card that has the male sitting at the table with a feast laid upon him. He's pouring himself a glass of wine. Now, Hanukkah might have gone, but it is the card that's pulling me in there, because other people are still listening to this, so I'll keep going. It is about the pouring into the cup. And the cup in this card seems to be already quite full. So the other goblet on the table is almost full. So where am I going with this? See, I keep coming back to that same point. Where am I going with this? So that's the biggest part of it, is where am I going with this? What am I doing with this? I have all this stuff coming in, but what do I do with it? You know, so whether that's psychic information, whether that's people giving me things, information, you know, being a little bit overwhelmed. And so as I'm looking at my psychic guru card, and I don't like that word guru, but that's what I've labelled it, is the ground's open. It looks like there's been an earthquake, there's a volcano over there, you've got the wise owl swooping into the person. So sometimes I feel that you want the ground to open up and swallow you, because it feels overwhelming. And all that speaks about is not being regulated enough, and not realising that we have to regulate ourselves, and it is about self-management to be able to get on with our lives. Because if we're not self-managing, we're not being the observer, we're not listening to ourselves, we're not gauging our responses, we're not getting the best out of our triggers that we could be. And therefore not able to help or facilitate assistance as much as we like or, you know, want to. So looking at the Hermit card, there's a reflection on a pond of the person in there. It's a very different card. But the word that I get with that is stubbornness. So there's a lack of receptivity, not being taught to be able to receive enough. So feel the reason that there is overwhelming with the receiving is there's a little bit of guilt in there. Okay, not your fault. This is what I'm talking about with the coding, etc., etc. So not feeling free enough to go and do what you want. And again, coming back to people's expectations. I feel like spirit with the owl coming toward the person's head. Looks like they're meditating. You know, I feel like spirit are definitely trying to communicate with you. But it doesn't feel easy most of the time. And again, I just feel like you haven't set up the right protocol with yourself to be able to do that and to receive enough. So I've got something just coming there, so I'm just checking to see whether that's because of what I'm doing or because that's what's going on for you right now, and you might not even be on this live, but I just wanted to carry on anyway. Because there are always things in a reading like this for one person where the other followers might hear something that resonates. So downtime. Just feel like you need some downtime so that you can start getting clear. Okay. And again, when I look back, so I talked earlier about, for me, it's not memorizing what each card means. It's about waiting for the movement to appear in the card. So let me show you this particular card. What I'm seeing, the movement in here right now is that branch of that tree that palm tree moving against the person's head, right? So that's what I see. So for me, it's a little bit like when, you know, being a medium, you see spirit come and go, you see the movement. The cards for me are no different. They're like little videos. So to me, that branch is about spirit. Again, trying to get through to you. And it's okay that you say no. It's very okay to say no, because again, that's management of spirit in the spirit world. You are the filter. You're the one on the ground. You're the one doing the work. You're the one that sets the tone. So don't be afraid to do that. Because with spirit, unless you are self-managing, they tend to kind of all want to come in when they realise you're open, and that can be scarily overwhelming, and it can also be a little bit detrimental because then you end up shutting down. You know, there's a lot to face when you decide you're going to become a medium. And the best way to do that is to be the best listener of your own system, your own body, your own senses. And that takes time, you know. Yes, some mediums, it's open straight away and it's natural. But for those of us with a long-standing trauma and multiple traumatic experiences in our lives, we've got to break through that. We've got to learn to manage ourselves better, because if we've been taken advantage of, then we will let the spirit world dictate as well. And you can well imagine that that will get a lot of people that aren't self-managing and self-regulating appropriately end up in a lot of deep hot water. Yeah. Value, this is a general collective message, value the time that you have with yourselves. We are so conditioned to live for everybody else, to listen to everybody else. The sooner you listen to your true authentic self, the sooner you can get on with your life. Yeah, so I'll leave that there, because I think the person I did that for is gone, and that seems to me to be complete. So there we go. Right. So does anybody else have any more questions? General questions. Okay. I might just leave that there. That's been cool, I think, with my energy levels. We'll just leave that there, and thanks everybody for joining on. I don't think these are recorded on TikTok. I don't think they go elsewhere unless there's a page that I'm not aware about. And yeah, I look forward to chatting with some more of you next time I'm live. Pleasant surprise this morning in my inbox. And thanks, Ren, for being on and engaging with me. Go well, but get the rest, my darling, get the rest. Go and create that safe space for you to let go. All right, guys, we'll tune in soon.